Mamdouh Alqudsi from the Center for United Nations Constitutional Research. Thank you so much for joining us. You're here today because you've put out a very ambitious call based on something that's called the San Francisco Promise. So the UN saying many, many years ago that it would review its treaty, never did. And you and your group are calling for a directly elected UN Parliament, so a directly elected World Parliament. Very ambitious goal. Can you explain the reasoning behind your cause?
In the UN, the states are only represented there. So there is no consideration or no recognition for the global citizens in the global decision making. And for global crisis, we need both states and global citizens to tackle that. So that we are claiming directly that we need the creation of UN World Parliament that represent global citizens in global decision making.
Let's say this cause starts getting some more recognition. How would you see it actually starting to be put in place, this World Parliament?
Well, it should be start in the UN itself, in the General Assembly. They should request themselves to reform the United Nations, to uphold San Francisco Promise that you mentioned at the beginning, which says that that the UN during the Constitution in 1945, they said that the UN Charter should be reviewed in 10 years, but it never happened since then. So the way to uphold this promise is the General Assembly should request to review the United Nations Charter, and it has many steps, legal steps to be reviewed. And then when they inform the citizen that they will have representation in such agents in the UN, they advocate, they inform, they teach. There are many steps should be started within NGOs like us, universities, governments. Everyone should be involved and collaborate all together to inform the citizens how they should have representation there.
You see this as obviously being more a means to an end to respond to things like the climate crisis, for example. And in that vein, you've also talked about wanting a world court. So we already have the International Criminal Court, obviously, but you want a world court that can prosecute environmental crimes, so it can hold states accountable, but also corporations, non-state actors, individuals. Can you explain why that's so important for you and how it would work?
Yes, definitely. In fact, the court, the International Court for Crimes you mentioned, is a voluntary court. So it makes no sense whenever you raise a case and if the other party didn't show up, so there is no case, there is no court even. And Paris Accord is also voluntary. The United Nations cannot make such global decisions because of the agenda, and it just cannot make decisions. So that we need a competence court existence can hold the states and any environmental violator accountable.
I mean, I can see some states getting behind this, but could you see, for example, a country like, say, the United States or China, for that matter, where they clearly would resist efforts to be held accountable? Can you see them getting behind something like this?
Well, by time they would be forced to involve. What we are saying that let us, we the people, govern the world. We want to solve the global crisis. I mean, if the states, they don't want to take steps, we want to take steps. So when more citizens, more and more get involved, when the Americans and the Chinese citizens get involved, the governments must be involved. It would be no choice for them.
So you see this court and this parliament really working together in a way, that one would come with the other. Then.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, in fact, this court and the parliament, they should be in the proposal of reforming the United Nations Charter with other elements or other aspects that we mentioned in our declaration or in our proposal.
And so you talk in your declaration, in your call, you talk about climate justice. What does climate justice mean for you?
climate justice is, I mean, the justice is as any other justice. We want equal living conditions, living in a healthy and clean environment for every human being wherever they are. It's just same as any other justice.
As a young person, following the footsteps of other young people, notably Greta Thunberg, who have made these similar calls, what do you think about Ms. Thunberg?
Well, she is doing a great job. She's doing the activism. What we're doing, we are a think tank organization. We are doing the theoretical part. We are doing the work. We're trying to be the connection, the umbrella that can unify the activists, their demands, clarify their demands, inform them what system change they want, what. Exactly how should they reform their demands. So this is what we are trying to do, and this is what we are trying to be.
What are some of the other things you think that we can do to help achieve a more just world, greater dialogue?
Well, we need to start a dialogue over the state's agenda. I mean, whenever we need the states to put the global citizens or their citizens' interests and benefits over their agendas, their policies, and this is the first possible way that we could make a global collaboration better world. Besides that, I think many organizations, civil activists, opinion leaders, they should work all together also to inform as many as possible. The corporates should hold themselves accountable. They should stop thinking about profits over people's life, over people's interests. They should also take further steps in order to be socially responsible. This is, I think, the best way to start.
And so what do you think a forum like the Doha Forum can do in helping to create that dialogue?
Well, they are bringing people together, the panelists, they are bringing experienced panelists where they are open dialogue between the panelists and the attendees. The panelists are mainly from different governments, so they are starting to create the dialogue between governments and citizens. You know, if you are Turkish and you don't need to have dialogue only with the Turkish government in this forum. If you are, from the US, you don't need only to talk with the US governments, because so they are bringing the same panel different governments. So they are opening this opportunity, and it's important as a first step as well.
Well, thank you so much for sharing your experience with us.
Thank you. It's a pleasure. Thank you.
Absolute pleasure.